If you're gonna follow the channel, wanted to make sure I had it in the bag video so you understood what I'm throwing, why I throw these things, and kind of how I approach setting up my bag. So disc golf's a really personal game, right? And I think what's in your bag is also a pretty personal story as to why and what you bag. I think it's so fun. Disc golf's so creative as well with the different shot shapes, forehand, backhand, thumbers, whatever you want to do. It's just why I love disc golf. There's so much to it. Every round's different. But this is an in the bag video, so let's get into it. Again, squash bag. Start off with the putting putters. So I've got PA3s in the bag. I mean, again, if Isaac can win 2 world championships, Gannon putted so well with these as well, I started to try them. I like a shallow beaded putter. So I've got the PA3s, a couple different plastics with my Dallas Stars logo, big fan. And then, so those are my putting putters for 2025. I've got a massive stack that I practice in the backyard with. And then Berg. I do a lot of throw-ins with the Berg, well I try to at least. I think it's one of the best forehand discs. If you don't know what the Berg is, it's got that concave top. So it's like puddle top on purpose. So you got such an easy grip with the forehand. I never throw it on backhand, but the Berg, if I can ever approach with a Berg, I'm always gonna take it. And then I do have a Pixel little jalapeno assassin from DFX. They make some awesome stamps. If I need to run something a little bit longer, this is gonna stay in the air and just float a lot further than those PA3s. So those are my putting putters, my approach disc with a Berg, and then if I wanna go after a longer putt, we're gonna grab the Pixel. And then I'm gonna go into my favorite slot here in my bag, which is my utility approach discs, the A2. This one is just a perfect disc for me. I do this forehand, backhand, and it does everything. So if I need to get something skipping to the right with a forehand or a big hyzer or a low skip shot, the A2 has kind of been like my just go-to for the past, I guess, month that I've had this one. Again, shout out to Hayden, thank you. But let's get into my throwing putters, which I've got 2 throwing putters. I have 2 here. We're gonna start off with a Hooligan Cash. This is actually the Lone Star run. It's the only Lone Star thing I have left, but the Cash is such a unique mold. It's basically like a shallow PA3. And this one is just dead straight for me. And then I've got a PA3 that I'm throwing. Again, I think I like that fit or like the feel in the hand of the PA3 and the Cash. They're really similar for throwing. And so that one's just a little bit more stable. I want a little bit more of a finish, but it flies pretty dang straight. And then this is basically a Zone. It's a Temple from Thought Space Athletics, but it's their Nerve plastic. So it's 4303, basically same flight numbers as the Zone. But this one is very, very grippy and absorbs all of the ground impacts. So if you want to approach the basket and not skip away and just have that disc settle and die down, I go with the Temple. So then we move into another one of my forehand discs. I'll throw that Temple backhand and forehand, and I'm gonna do the same with this Tempo. This one's a little bit more understable of a disc than this Temple or the A2. I've been throwing this on forehand, and it just drifts to the left and comes back. So I can basically aim at a point, and I know it's gonna go left, and I know it's gonna come back to that point where I'm aiming it if I throw it flat. This disc feels like it should be a lot more stable than it is, but for some reason, it just doesn't fly like that. So it'll have a little bit of the flip up, come back on the forehand. You can get it up to 250, 275 with a forehand, which is kind of crazy. And for the slower speed discs, easier to control the flight. I'll throw this on backhand as well, but for some reason when I throw it on backhand, maybe less torque, it just flies straight, dumps at the end, kind of like an Envy would. So I think I call this like the unicorn disc that I've found recently. And then I've got a Hex. This is my mid-range. You know, it does everything for me. This flies more like a fairway driver. I can throw this up to 380. Not kidding. I don't have to, but it's such a good disc, very reliable, but it just feels more like a fairway driver to me. I don't love throwing mid-ranges. I don't know why. And the only other mid-range I have in the bag is this Balance. So there's the prototype Balance that came out in the Gyropalooza boxes, and I made sure to go find one that had my favorite color scheme, the pink and the blue. A little bit more stable for those flights that I want to be able to flex something in, working around. And then out of that $500 Discmania mystery box I bought off of somebody, I have this S-Line FD that I just used, put straight in the bag for the Polar Open that we won just this last weekend. So the FD is basically going to be my understable fairway driver. I don't throw a lot of flippy stuff. I really don't. But this one will drift over, come back, or if I want something to go a little right on a backhand, we'll throw that for backhand. And then I have this Mint Discs Alpha. So these are, I think it's like the combination of the plastic from MVP. So MVP basically makes these discs for Mint Discs, and super stiff, super, super grippy. And I can trust this disc. I don't like flippy floppy discs at all. And this one is 842. You know, throw it flat and it always works itself out. Super reliable. And then I get into my 9-speeds, which start off with a Fireball. This one's a little bit more lightweight, 168. Neutron Fireball. So for this, instead of it, you know, kind of being your standard, it's just gonna go straight and dump right. If I throw this on forehand, it's gonna drift for me a little bit and finish. So like these flight numbers of 9, 3.5, 0, 3.5, it's a lie. That's more like a 9, 401.5 truly for me. And then I've got another Fireball. This time it's in the Proton plastic. A little bit heavier, and it does have a lot more stability than the other Fireball. And then I go into one of my favorite discs of all time, the ThoughtSpace Athletics Omen. It is board flat. This is my like 250 foot, just crazy overstable disc, kind of like a Splice or one of the older FAF Firebirds in like a Champ plastic. So super important for my game to have those discs. Again, as you can probably tell, I like those overstable discs. Then I've got a C-Line PD. Somebody in the last video told me it was a 13th run, so I appreciate you helping me out with that one with the Huck Labs die on it. So again, part of that $500 mystery box, and definitely added this one into the bag. Get those out of the way for a second. And then this was actually the very first disc I bought. I think this was back in 2021 when I started playing. That wasn't just something I had from college left over. When I'd probably taken like a 5-year break from disc golf, and I found a disc in a creek one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, I should play disc golf again. So randomly was walking down the creek with like my 3-year-old at the time, just playing in the water, found I think it was like a Boss, and I was like, I got to start playing again. So that was right, I guess, as COVID was kicking off and we couldn't do anything, but the Halo Wraith, one of the best drivers out there. I usually throw this on backhands, 450-ish feet, and I picked up a couple eagles with that one in a tournament in December. It's a super sick disc. And then I got a bunch of Destroyer-ish molds. This is my Star Destroyer, super flippy. This is my longest disc in the bag. I can get that just a little over 500. And then I got a Cloudbreaker 2. I only throw that one, by the way, on backhand. This one is gonna be a forehand disc and backhand disc for me. Goes super far. I guess it's a little bit less stable than the Destroyers I have in my bag. And I do order them based on stability in each slot. I got a 21 Calvin Heimberg Halo Destroyer. Like the 21 run and the 2020 run are always gonna have a special place in my bag, because those are the first 2 discs, a Halo Destroyer and a Halo Wraith, that I bought off eBay, and it kind of like started this whole thing of me just trying to figure out like, what is everybody throwing? Why are these discs so special compared to a normal Destroyer? I should probably move my stack over here now. And then I have 2 more Halo Destroyers in the bag. I just got this one in the mail. As you can tell, cotton candy, my favorite color scheme. Super hard to find the 2020 run with a little bit of pink in there for the blue ones. So when I saw this pop up on eBay, I was like, oh, we're definitely buying that right away. So that one's definitely more stable than this last one that I have. And this is the Beefcake. This thing is just stupid. It's an F2 from the 21 run of Halo Destroyers. I mean, like, I can put this on so much ante on a forehand or a backhand, and it always works itself back out. So that is my most stable disc in the driver category. But I mean, basically you got a Halo Wraith, a couple Halo Destroyers, a Cloudbreaker 2, and that's what's in my bag. I sometimes use a cart, but again, with the carts, there's just, I will find myself just, I'll have these discs and then I'll put another 10 for fun to play around with. And if you're really trying to improve your game, you know, limit the number of discs. Don't be the guy who's thrown 1,000 discs. Be the guy who's thrown his disc 1,000 times. You're gonna get a lot better doing it that way. I used to run a disc golf shop online during the COVID era for a couple years. So I had every manufacturer in my shop, and I tried everything. I tried everything. So that's kind of how I ended up getting into the spot where this is my bag, but you should always try to, experiment with other discs. If you see a disc, somebody else you're playing with, your friends, they offered you to throw it, or you want to throw it, ask them. And you'll be able to kind of see what works for you. But that's what's in my bag for the season. Pretty happy with where I've been, happiest I've ever been with my bag. So those are, what I'm bagging and why. Hopefully you found something interesting in this video. And I'll reference this. There's going to be some differences in the bag. I don't have roller discs in here right now, but just depending on the course and the layout, you might throw a couple things in there. But overall, these are going to stay in the bag for the whole season. All right, thanks for watching.